Hi, this is John Blake, and in this video I'm going to expose what I've noticed lately in the businesses that I've been working with, and I'm also going to give you some ideas on what you can do about it. You see, there's companies out there that are still under the impression that they're operating in pre-2007 times, and what I mean by that is that you could essentially, up until sort of 2007, 2008, you could be an order taker. And even as recently as 2009, 2010, companies had enough organic growth to simply sit back and let the business come to them. And the main problem with that is that it's just not like that anymore. It's taken a while for the momentum to slow and for the reality to sink in. So the good times have bred some laziness out there, and it's showing up in low conversions, higher amounts of discounting to try and win business, and a general apathy toward actually generating business rather than waiting to see what business walks in through the door. And this is the single biggest problem that I'm seeing with companies that employ salespeople or sales-driven type organisations, which, let's face it, is most organisations. So it's not like there's no one buying, there's just less of them. And here's what I mean. So the market for any product or service, you can see up the top there, you've got the 3%. The 3% of a market for any particular product or service are buying now. They're the people. So whether it be cars, real estate, financial planning, shopping around for a better mortgage, there are 3% of that market are buying right now. Underneath that, you've got 7% of people who are in the market. So they're people who are looking around, looking to do something in the not too distant future. Then you've got 30% of the market that are open to it. They're not necessarily thinking about it, but they're certainly open to it. Then the 30% of people under that are definitely not thinking about it, and then the 30% of people under that who think they don't need it. So essentially you've got the same percentages going through any particular market, but in a down market you simply have less people in the pool. So there are less people in the buying now category. There are less people in the market category, and you've actually got to start to do things to attract people from the open to it category and the not thinking about it category to actually grow your product or service. So you've actually got to do proactive things to bring your particular product or service into the consciousness, top of mind of people who are in the market, or sorry, open to your particular idea, product or service, but not necessarily in the market or in the market to buy right now. So to illustrate that a little bit further, the reality is that in business, to stay ahead of the curve, we have to get on the front foot with our sales, our marketing and our leadership to capture more of the market for our product or service, because the organic growth simply isn't enough to sustain us. And I mean, look at this article from last week's paper. 50% of the startups from 2007 are now not in business. And you know what? I was always skeptical of those type of stats, because you hear those type of statistics being bandied around all the time. 50% of businesses don't make it past 4 years. But this is straight from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, so it's pretty hard to dispute. They've basically taken it straight from the census, and what we know is that of the businesses that were around in 2007, most of them, or half of them, are now no longer here, and that is pretty scary. I mean, that kind of really brought it home to me the other day. And what they're blaming is rising costs, but I would beg to differ. And to prove my point, this is the single biggest reason I'm so flat out now helping my clients. And essentially what I'm trying to get them to do, or what I'm helping them to do, is to get back on the front foot with their sales and marketing. And I can barely speak to another potential client at the moment, let alone take on another one. And I mean, this is a classic example. This is me at if you look very carefully at the green sign, you'll see which one it is. But I actually do this. I do this exercise in my retail workshops, where where I get them to where I get people to imagine that they're in a department store and they're walking around looking for something to buy, and they find the thing that they want to buy, and while they're looking, the whole time that they've been in the department store, there's a telephone ringing. And there's a telephone ringing in the background, and as they're walking around, there's a telephone ringing, and as they're looking and browsing, trying to find what it is that they're looking for, there's a telephone ringing, and then they find the thing that they're looking for, and the telephone's still ringing. And then they're looking around for someone to help them, and no one comes, and then I ask them to name the department store without having just described that particular scenario, without actually having named the department store. And you'll see it's on that little green sign. That's the name that 9 out of 10 people come up with. Well, anyway, here I am, and I'm essentially living this scenario that I describe, and this going through this process with the people that I typically have in my rooms, and and this phone had been ringing for about 10 minutes, and I just couldn't help myself. I had to get behind the counter, and I actually answered the phone. So that's a photo of me answering the phone behind the counter and actually taking a message for one of the salespeople who was noticeably absent at that particular point in time. And needless to say, they weren't very thankful and didn't show a lot of gratitude when I got back. They threatened to call security, and I said, look, there's a guy that I just spoke to who actually wants to come and buy an iPod from you, and it's a guaranteed $400 sale, because what we know is that if you make an appointment with someone, they come in, there's an 80% chance that they're going to buy something. It wasn't particularly busy, and I'd have to say that they needed the money and they needed the sale on that particular day. So there's an example of me being kind of cheeky, but I use it here to illustrate my point. So there you go, another classic example of what I'm talking about. So even though I'm chockers at the moment with clients and I really can't take on any more, I want to do something about this. So what I'm going to do is release dates for a professional sales masterclass in the next week. So let me carefully explain who this training will be for. It will be for any salesperson who sells a service or a product to another business. So for example, wholesale reps and distributors, financial planners, mortgage brokers, coaches and consultants, recruitment salespeople, media sales reps, people who sell recruitment. So anyone who sells business to business, that's what it's going to be designed for, as opposed to a retail type event, which is what I've run in the past. So essentially anyone who sells business to business. So keep your eyes out for an announcement with the subject line B2B training in the next week, where I will explain more about the content for this training and how you can best take advantage of it. So in the meantime, take care, and I will speak to you then.